All right, so welcome everyone. Thank you very much for attending today's pre-law shadow session. We're so incredibly grateful to be having Tushaar Kalra joining us today. Tushaar is the principal lawyer and founder of Kalra Law based out of Scarborough, Ontario. So without taking all of his thunder and without further ado, I will let Tushaar have the floor and introduce himself.
Yeah, hello everybody. My name is Tushaar Kalra. I am the founder and principal lawyer here at Kalra Law. We are a full-service boutique law firm in Toronto. I launched Kalra Law about 8 months ago, and the journey we've had so far, it's crazy. And I hope we're going to use this session to hopefully shed some light and kind of answer any questions on what to expect prior to law school and even maybe during practicing. So yeah, I hope I hope my journey can help whoever, and yeah, let's do it.
Sounds good. Sounds good to me. So I guess my first sort of question to you is, where did you firstly attend university, and what did you major in while you attended university?
Yeah, so I actually for undergrad I went to university at York. I decided to stay home and maybe save some money, and I majored in business administration with honors in HR. It was a great 4 years. Learned a lot, met a lot of good people, and that was what I did prior to law school.
Gotcha. Was I guess was kind of like the business HR aspect. Was that something you always kind of wanted to get into, choosing your major for university, or was it something that kind of just you stumbled upon?
Yeah, good question. So yeah, I did not. I knew I wanted to go into business as my degree for undergrad. I did not know that HR would be something I specialize in. The first 2 years of undergrad, there are more some generic business courses, and then when you get into third and fourth year is when you want to specialize in what stream you want to go into. And HR did stick out for me. I was fortunate enough to intern every summer at a large telecommunications company downtown in their HR department. And so that kind of got me a little bit of exposure, and I enjoyed it. And yeah, that's kind of how I stumbled upon HR.
Gotcha. So I guess once you kind of got out of university or graduated university, or maybe throughout university, maybe you could attest to, did you always think about law school or that you were going to get into law? Or was it something that kind of just someone said, hey, you should look at going to law school, your grades are really good? Or was it something that you always wanted to get into?
Yeah, no, so I can confidently say law school was not something that was always, that was not something that I thought I would pursue. It was more closer to the end of my degree, maybe in fourth year. I had intern every summer in HR. I was exposed to the corporate life and working 9 to 5. And I think those experiences at an early age kind of made me realize that, hey, I'm not ready to finish school yet. Like I want to stay a student. I don't know if I'm ready for the world yet. So at the end of fourth year was when I kind of realized that, hey, I want to continue school. My two options were, maybe let's go do an MBA or law school. The practice of law always interested me, and I was, reaching out to people just and doing webinars or watching webinars, just like what Pre-Law Shadow is doing, to kind of understand if it was for me. And yeah, I chose law over an MBA, and I'm so happy I did, and that's what kind of brought me into this field. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like it paid off in the end, so I'm really glad to hear that. So was there any, okay, I guess I'll switch gears. So what law school did you go to next? Right after you finished university? Did you go right after university, or did you take some time off?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I know a lot of students ask me that of, hey, like, should I take a leap year? Or I actually decided to go to United Kingdom for law school. I did go to United Kingdom right after my fourth year of undergrad. And so with the UK, I guess we'll get into that a little bit more as well, but I didn't have to write the LSAT. And that's why I didn't have that gap year where, you can still write the LSAT while you're in undergrad, but I was just so busy with undergrad, I never got the chance to. So when I graduated, It was like, do I take a year off and study for the LSAT and try to go to a school in Canada, or do I just apply to schools in the UK and abroad and go right away? And I chose the latter. Obviously, maybe we'll get into that later, but there are some pros and cons with doing that, and that is something I definitely gave a lot of thought to. But yeah, I chose the UK route, and I was able to do it right after undergrad and not waste any time.
Gotcha. I guess we can get into some of those pros and cons kind of right now, because I was going to lead into my next question. Maybe for some of us, well, I'll start it with what were some of the misconceptions I guess you had when you went to law school, maybe that you had prior than when you actually were there? I know you went to UK, so it might have been largely different than going maybe per se here in Canada, but did you notice any big misconceptions that you had previously going in versus when you came out, or while you had your experience with law school?
Yeah, no, definitely. And there are, there are misconceptions attached to foreign trained lawyers, and when you're going to law school abroad and you come back and you want to get licensed in Canada and Ontario in specific, you're not only competing against people who went abroad, but you're competing against Canadian students, domestic students. And when we talk about large firms, the Seven Sisters, or if you want to work on Bay Street, it's coming back with a foreign degree, it is a lot harder to get into a larger firm. And there is a stigma attached to foreign trained lawyers and the type of education, and they're all real, and it's very true, and I've experienced it myself. I knew what I was putting myself up against before going to law school, but I feel like I had a plan. I had a plan, and I had managed my expectations. So when I came back, I knew what I was going up against, and I think managing your expectation is a huge part of it. But luckily, I always tell my colleagues and even students who talk to me, I was blessed. I came back, and I interviewed a lot. I networked. I reached out. I just kept going, and luckily, I was able to get a position for articling in a Big Four law firm, and so my path was a little bit different from what the traditional path would be for somebody studying in the UK. But one thing I will say is, going abroad to go to law school doesn't mean you can't work for a big firm, or it doesn't mean you can't be on Bay Street. But is it harder? The reality of it is, the competition is, you're going to be competing against Canadian students, and that's the reality of it.
Gotcha. I think that's incredible insight, because I don't think many people think about that. They kind of think, well, maybe I don't have to write the LSAT. I can go to UK, maybe travel, do X, Y, Z, whatever it may be, just doing the UK route. But I don't think, maybe especially right now, some of us that are in attendance were pre-law students. We don't think that far ahead, but it's something. I think it's valuable to give that insight that ultimately it is going to be out there no matter what, which I think is something that a lot of us don't really think about and probably don't even know about, to be brutally honest with you. I guess while we're sticking kind of on that while we're sticking on that topic, my next question kind of is a little bit more personal. What was some of the difference? I guess maybe let's say, what were some of the differences did you notice going to like a school in UK, or just like a professional school in UK, versus when you were here in Canada and you went to York?
Well, for me, it was a huge change of scenery. One, because when I went to York, I lived at home, I commuted, I lived with my family, the responsibilities, it was just different. And not only moving away from school, but moving away to a different country on your own. I mean, there are huge hurdles. There's a lot of learning. There's a big culture. I had to learn the culture and how people, the way of life. I would say, the UK, one good thing about the UK is they have a huge even if you live in London, there's a huge culture that you move away for college or university. So I was able to
Gotcha.
meet people from a wide array of backgrounds all over the UK, all over Europe. Like you brought up earlier, the traveling component. You literally can go anywhere you want. That was a big factor for me moving away. Was not only did I want to continue with school, but I wanted to see the world, and I was able to do both of them at the same time. Other than that, I would say the university culture is similar to you moving away to Western or you moving away to a Waterloo. It's you get that good university, the cohesiveness within the students. I loved it. If I can go back to and relive 2 years of my life, I would confidently say it would be law school. It was a great time.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate that, because I know a lot of us are thinking of that, because it's something, like I want to travel away somewhere. The US, perhaps people can't afford it because it's so expensive. And maybe just UK is just a little bit more safer all around. It's just something that obviously it's been brought up a couple of times. And I think having a lawyer that went there and can actually give us his own experience is super mindful to have. So I guess I'll sort of start shifting into your career, a little bit now. So once you graduated law school, you mentioned you got a really good articling job at a top 4 firm in Toronto. And you told me you kind of went through some of the struggles to kind of get there. Would you mind kind of talking about how you got it, and what type of law you were practicing while you were articling?
Yeah, so I came back. I graduated from law school in July 2016. I came back, and right away it was like, we got to pay off debt. We got to pay off law school debt, and so it's like, let's get a job. And I was competing against Canadian law school students, and so I applied, rejection, and I just, it's easy to lose faith and to stop, but I mean, we when you go to law school, you signed up for it, right? And you got to keep going. And so an opportunity presented itself from one of the big 4 accounting firms in downtown Toronto, where I got an interview for articling, and I got hired, and it was in corporate immigration. So my first experience after law school was in immigration. I luckily I articled with them. I worked with them for a little bit before I left corporate practice and I went to private practice. It was a great experience. I met some great people. It was some long hours, just like, most firms. But I think it really, really set me up for to be able to succeed where I am now, just from like simple things like networking and professional emails and it really gave me the foundation to succeed in my future career in law as well. So I was very thankful. And when I say that, I truly believe that I was blessed, is because I'll be straight up. I have, lots of friends, colleagues, younger students who didn't get a job for 2 years after applying. Not everybody, one thing is, not everybody has the same path, right? I can sit here and tell you mine, but if you try to compare yourself with the person next to you, you're only gonna try to make this own timeline in your head. And that's not how it should be. Everybody has their own path. And one thing I would say, just continue at it. All my friends who I can say were losing hope, and I told them it's going to happen, when I look at them now and we laugh about it, we're like, so it's just like, keep going. We all have our own path, and you're going to get there. It's just, you got to persevere.
It's even just having that advice. I mean, for some people maybe in the audience or that are going to be watching this, even if they're not, using this for, let's say, articling, getting into a job in articling, just even getting a job in general, or getting into university, or just anything in general, it's going to end up happening. You just have to put that work in. And once you do it, and you see the result pay out, you're going to be so happy that you put that work in and that the result came out the way you wanted it. Right. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say, it's that much sweeter when you had a hard time you know, and then when you reach that goal, it tastes that much sweeter knowing what you went through. So yeah,
it's very true. It's very true.
yeah.
I guess going back into your career or getting into your career, I guess a little bit. So you specialize in a couple different areas of fields of law. Sorry. So you talked about. I know you are in real estate law. You talked about you were in corporate immigration law, and you also do corporate law. So I guess combining some of your interests in university also within law. Did this kind of happen by choice, or was it something that you found the exposure to and wow, this is an awesome path that I really enjoyed doing and I kind of want to pursue it?
Yeah, no, so definitely not something that I knew I was going to do from the get-go. I think my journey was a lot of trial and error. You know, my first position out of law school was actually in civil litigation, and I hated it. I actually quit with no job lined up after. Most people would be like, "You're crazy for doing that," but I truly value, you know, my mental health, my social well-being, you know, versus me being miserable. So I actually, for me, it was a lot of trial and error, a lot of getting my feet wet to kind of figure out what I liked. During articling, I was in corporate immigration, so I got some experience there, and I enjoyed it. The gratification of helping somebody immigrate to Canada and stay in Canada and build a family in Canada is great. And then shortly after that, I think we're right now, I would say 90% of my practice is real estate. Real estate was something that, you know, was always of interest to me, even during undergrad and prior to that. And so I kind of knew that would always be my goal to get there, but how do I get there was the unknown. And so after when I did launch Kalra Law, I decided I want to practice. I want to focus really on real estate and corporate. Even though my traditional experience was in immigration, I really wanted to divert myself and get some more experience in real estate and corporate, and I've never looked back since. Even we still do take on immigration clients, but yeah, 90% of my practice is now real estate and corporate, and I love it. I love what I do, and I wouldn't change it for anything.
That's awesome. That's incredible. So as you just touched on, and as I kind of brought up doing my introduction, you're the founder of Kalra Law. Is there any reason you wanted to start your own firm? Did you have like an entrepreneurial spirit that drove you to do this, or did you have some experiences that made you do this that you could maybe attest to?
Yeah, no, that's a very good question. I think this ties into what I said earlier, where when I wanted to go to the UK, I said I had a plan. And part of that plan was I knew I had to get some experience and work for a firm and go into private practice, but the plan was always to open my own firm, you know, and that's why that did influence my decision to go to the UK, in the sense that I just wanted that license. I just wanted to be able to practice law in Ontario. You know, I didn't care about working on Bay Street and working 90 hours a week and making crazy salaries, because you need to ask yourself, are you in it for the money, or are you in it for, we all need money to live life, but do you want to have time to spend that money? Do you want a family? You know, so all of those moving pieces were things I thought about. And so I always knew I wanted to have my own firm. I didn't know when that would happen, but that is the entrepreneur in myself. And I wanted control over my life, to be honest. You know, I didn't want to be that guy who's behind the screen in his office till 10 o'clock every night, stressed every single day and with gray hair by the time you're 30, right? So I think that is actually a huge consideration for pre-law school students, that you got to ask yourself, why are you going to law school? What do you want out of it? And I think if you can confidently answer that question, it'll dictate what route you take.
Gotcha. That's amazing advice. I guess kind of back into that. I know you kind of you really liked when you were in your major back in university, and you really enjoyed that when you were interning, that corporate lifestyle. Was that something that you wanted to keep pursuing, or was that something that you kind of got sick of over the course of your career?
Yeah, definitely got sick of it over the course. And I think getting that experience in the corporate world early kind of enabled me to realize that I don't want to work a 9 to 5 every day for somebody else, and that kind of influenced my decision of I want to open up my own firm and and not saying a 9 to 5 the there's lots of benefits with a 9 to 5, the
Yeah.
security, the benefits, and all of that. But that wasn't for me, right? So I'm glad I got that experience early. I didn't want to have that same 9 to 5 working for somebody every day, and so that's what led me to go to law school with the intent of opening up. And I don't work. My job is a 9 to 9. Like I'll leave here at 7, 8, and I'll go home, and I'm still working, but I get to work for myself. And
Right.
I think then it doesn't really become work. It's like my firm's like my little baby. And that's how I look at it.
Gotcha. I guess while we're just kind of on your career and we're delving into it, could you maybe take us through maybe a day in the life or something like, an average day for you, or just maybe a really enjoyable day or something along those lines?
Yeah.
I know that's kind of a tough question.
Yeah.
No, it's kind of a tough question because not every day
Yeah.
is the same, but maybe you could just shed some light for us.
Yeah, no day is the same. And even if I have this expectation of what my day tomorrow is going to look like, and I know that's not what's going to happen, but it's always good to at least think it's going to happen. But I guess with in real estate law, a general day is a lot of with real estate law. There's a lot of document preparation. There's a lot of dealing with lenders and banks and your client and many different stakeholders. And I guess, for example, when we're talking about real estate, when we're selling a property or buying a property, that property closes on a specific date. For example,
Right.
I have 2 properties closing tomorrow. And so tomorrow is going to be a day of where, it's going to be money coming in from the purchasers, and I'm going to the bank and paying my clients. And, there's days where we're closing deals at 4:55, 5 minutes before the land registry office closes. And there's a lot of adrenaline on some days where you're running in and out of banks and getting things done. But I think that's what I love about it so much, where it's like the hustle in you. There's a lot of adrenaline and a lot of energy that's involved. And I think that's something that I love. I'm not that guy who can be behind a computer just reading all day and that's not me. So I love real estate law. You meet a lot of good people, and there's a lot of energy involved, which is what I love.
Absolutely. It sounds that way. And it sounds like something that, it doesn't really it sounds like, some wills and estates all the time. And it sounds like, oh, it's just paperwork and boring stuff. But, I guess we don't really see the aspect of the hustle and the adrenaline, like you said. So that's awesome that you could shed that light on us, because it's something personally I didn't know. So I'm definitely going to take that back. I'm just thinking kind of back towards your experiences with the UK, because I'm fascinated by it and how it molded you into the person you are today. What are some of the experiences, I guess, that you maybe learned in law school, or maybe while you're in university, or maybe when you just started your articling, that have influenced your career today that maybe you could share with us?
It's a good question. Well, one thing I guess on this topic, but is especially like what you guys are doing at Pre-Law Shadowers. When I was in university, I wish I did more of this, where I attended events like this. And that's why I was so passionate to collab with you guys, because I think it's very important, if you are a pre-law student, to attend events like this. It really preps you and makes you understand of what to expect. And I don't think I did enough of it. I don't even think I was prepared as much as I could have been when I got into law school. And so I definitely recommend, if you're looking to get into law school or pursue law, to attend events like this. They go a long way. But yeah, like getting into law school, I remember first year, I was part of the exec committee for our pro bono committee at school. And I was always somebody who was social, and, I love networking and meeting people. And I think those small habits are paying off for me now, right?
Right.
Being the same social type of guy, and networking is great, but when you plant those seeds, they come to fruition when you're practicing, right? So
Right.
a large portion of my business is, may come from people I don't even speak to on an everyday basis, but I've networked with them in the past, and now we're able to collab because we're at that capacity now,
Right. Right.
So I'm a very, very strong advocate for network. Your network is your net worth, right? May sound cliche, but it's true. Especially when you're practicing law. Be active, and one thing I will also say that I didn't value as much is take care of your mental health. When you go to law school, or even when you're just an undergrad student, the school stress can take over you, and that's fairly natural. But try to have that balance. Try to do things that make you happy, whether it's going to the gym, or sitting in the park and having a coffee, or whatever it is. You really need to have that balance. It's you won't succeed if you're just taking on that stress. So I think those are some very important components for sure.
Absolutely. You got to take care of number one, like you just highlighted there. It's one of the things I think we forget about a lot, especially maybe just with COVID going on, but just in general. We always get stressed out about our work and our jobs, everything like that, but you got to take care of number one ultimately, because that's the only person who's going to be there for you, right? Is yourself.
Exactly.
I'm just kind of thinking of when you were, I guess I'm kind of going back and forth between law school to your current career. If you're able to attest to to this, could you maybe talk about some of the successes you've had in, like, either in court or settling a big deal, or even back in law school, like maybe in moot court in a class or something like that you could share with us?
Yeah, for sure. Like, well, I'll talk about, like, even maybe in real practice, I think when I started my own firm, there's a risk involved, I left a decent paying job with no promise that I was going to earn anything, with no guarantee. And it was kind of it was during COVID, so everybody's like, are you crazy? But I was just in a different state where I was like, I have to do it. But there was huge risk with starting my own firm, and am I going to get the clients, and am I going to can I do the work? And I can confidently say that getting the clients is now the easy part. Doing the work is the hard part,
Okay.
We still are a fairly small firm. We're a 3 to 4 person operation, but 2 months into my private practice, I retained a very big builder client where I closed we closed private lending financing for over $20 million for 30 detached houses. And, when I was put onto that deal, I was, I just launched my firm 2 months in, and I could never have imagined being on a deal in upwards of $20 million. And so that was a huge win for me.
Absolutely.
We're a small firm here in Scarborough, and we were dealing with, Bay Street law firms in downtown. And it kind of just makes you think like, hey, we're just as good, so that was definitely a big win.
Sure.
And I think just the every day when I get new clients, you just think to yourself, like, holy, like, the work is gonna come. And every time you get a client, it's a win. So regardless of how big or small, but it's definitely very rewarding knowing that the work you put in, the amount of work you put in directly impacts what you get out. And so I'm seeing that firsthand right now.
Well, that's awesome to hear, and congratulations. That's absolutely amazing. I can't even put it into words right now. I guess I'll I'm starting to wrap it up here, but I guess I'll get into my kind of last question here. So as someone, as you just described, making these incredible deals, and someone who's very successful and has had a triumphant career thus far, maybe what advice could you give to the people in attendance today, or the people that are watching that maybe are just thinking about law school or the LSAT or the field of law, or maybe just, you know, any other advice that you could give us, because you just gave us some amazing advice beforehand.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's an open-ended question. I think there's one thing I'll say is, you know, pursuing law, or the study of law, it's a commitment, you know, and I think before you invest your time and resources into going through with it, you got to be really sure, you know. You don't have cold feet. Attend events like this to kind of confirm your understanding of what law school is all about, or what you can expect. And you know, it is a big commitment. It's not just law school for 2 to 3 years. It's coming back and writing the bar exam and articling and then practicing for the rest of your life. It's a huge commitment, and I think you really want to be sure before you invest all those resources and your time into it. And another thing is, you know, people may have those misconceptions that all lawyers make lots of money and ray, but you don't be in it for the money. You gotta enjoy what you do. If you don't enjoy what you do, you're never gonna like it. You're gonna be miserable for the rest of your life. And I can confidently say that when I was practicing in civil litigation, I was miserable, you know, and that's why I had to quit my job and get to a point where I loved what I was doing, and that's where I am now. It is such a high stress industry that you need to control those stressors that you can. And so doing the things that you like, practicing the areas that you enjoy, would definitely alleviate some of that stress. And yeah, like I would say those are very important components there for sure.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you very much for answering all my questions and taking the time to be with us. I'll open it up. I'll open the floor up now for anyone who has questions. I know I see a couple in the chat that if it's okay with you, I'll ask you a couple. So how long did you spend in the UK, and how long did you return? Or sorry, how long after did you return after you get accepted in doing articling?
Yeah, good question. We should have addressed that. So in the UK, if you go to the UK with an undergrad in Canada, you'd be eligible to apply for the 2-year graduate program in most UK law schools, where you'd get an LLB. So the school component would be 2 years. Then if you wanted to practice in Canada or Ontario, you would come back and you would have to write what we call the NCA exams, which are the Canadian equivalency exams. If I'm not wrong, don't quote me on this. This was a while ago now, but you'll write anywhere from 5 to 7 exams to be for the Canadian equivalencies. And then you would have to find your articling and doing your bar at the same time. So I came back in 2016. I became a licensed lawyer in Canada in 2019. So I have some friends that did it a little bit quicker, but it would still take you a good 2 to 3 years to get licensed after coming back from law school in the UK.
Gotcha. Thank you very much for that.
No problem.
We have another question here from Danielle. Would you recommend the LLM in Canada after your Bachelor of Laws?
Very, very, very good question. And so the LLM is a program that is offered by a couple schools in Canada, including Osgoode and UBC and UFT, where instead of coming back and writing those NCA exams we spoke about, you're able to apply for these LLM programs, and they pretty much would be the equivalent to those 5 to 7 exams. So you wouldn't have to write the 5 to 7 exams on your own. You would just do the LLM at Osgoode or UBC, for example, and that would be the comparable. The one thing I will comment on is it is a lot more expensive to do an LLM versus study for the 5 to 7 exams on your own. So that might be another factor you want to consider. But yes, the LLM is a good option, and it does look good on your resume that you got some Canadian schooling as well.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for that insight, and it's something I personally didn't know about, so I'm definitely going to look into it too. I see that Samir has his hand up here, so I will unmute myself right here, and I will mute myself, sorry, and I'll ask him to unmute himself.
Hey there, can you hear me?
We can.
How's it going?
Not too bad. How are you?
Good, good. My question to you is, during your whole journey from when you started, I guess, your undergrad in Toronto, making the move, leaving your family, your friends, etc., to the UK, at any point did you find that the work was so much that you almost told yourself, okay, I'm through with this, I'm giving up, and I'm coming back home? And if so, going through those moments, what pushed you to stay grounded and say, you know what, I'm here, I made it this far, I'm going to finish what I'm doing, and I'm going to reach the top?
Yeah, no, it's a good question, and you know, I think those are thoughts that every student has at a certain point in their education. And you know, being in the UK, we were on a 5-hour time difference for most of the year, and you know, my friends who graduated from undergrad, who were working and they had their 9 to 5, you know, there would be days where I'd be at my desk with my head in my book with an exam tomorrow, with my friends sending me snaps at the bar or playing basketball or whatever. And so it would, like, I would have the thoughts of like, what am I doing? You know, I am while my friends are having so much fun, I'm reading a book. And so you always have those thoughts, and I think that's part of the process. And I think what made me going is that I always had my eye on the prize. And I always try to just remind myself of why I chose to do what I did. And that did help me at times. I'm not saying that there wasn't times where I wanted to quit and just come back and forget it all. But like I was saying, I made sure that before I spent that money and spent those resources, I had to be sure. And so when I did have those thoughts, I would just remind myself that, hey, like, you chose this, you invested the money, you invested the time. There's no other route other than getting this done. And just reminding yourself that will continue to help you push through.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
So if anyone else, I know there's a couple of questions in the chat, so I'll run these through the chat, or I'll ask some of these questions that are in the chat. So Rav has a question: Would you recommend going to the States to study law, or England, or maybe if you have experience on Canada or insight on Canada, could you shed some light on that?
And yeah, so like I'll briefly touch on that. I don't want to influence anybody's decision on where to go, but I can kind of just comment on maybe some of the differentiating factors. Obviously, if you want to practice in Canada, going to a Canadian law school is probably the most beneficial. It'll look the best on your resume. You have the option to go through the OCI process, which allows you to get recruited by big firms in Canada. Just the exposure you get from Canadian law schools to practice in Canada far exceeds that of any foreign trained law school. However, you know, like the points we touched on, like if you want to go and you want to travel and you want to go meet people and you want to learn how to take care of yourself in a different country while doing school, you won't get that in Canada, right? And that was really important to me. And so I chose the UK. With the States, you know, there's great law schools in the States, like awesome law schools, and they are a lot more expensive. Law school's expensive regardless, but the States I've seen is generally even more expensive because tuition is just out the door for them. And I wouldn't say there's as big of a stigma with American schools as compared to UK, but you will still have a little bit of a greater hurdle going to law school in the US. You'll still have to do those NCA exams. You'll still have to do an LLM if you want to. It's the same process of coming back as if you were in the UK. So those are all things to consider.
Absolutely. I think that's awesome advice and something that, you know, we don't really think about a lot of. We're only really exposed to perhaps the idea of going to a Canadian law school. I think you hear about just either watching shows or whatever the case may be, you hear about how expensive the state's law school is, but if it's something that you can invest in yourself and invest in, then take advantage of it, right? So Shalani here has a really good question, in my opinion. What advice would you give your younger self, or what would you wish that you knew now that you knew then?
Ooh, that's a really good question. That's putting me on the spot. What would I wish I knew now that I would have known then? Okay, I can confidently say, you know, there are days where, you know, where it's like, what if I just continued in HR and did a 9 to 5? You know, like I'd be less. There'd still be stress, but I'd be able to be home at 5:15, and you know, you would have the other luxuries in life, you know, and I think had I known that the practice of law is not a 9 to 5, and I didn't know how much actually goes into it that I do now. Would that have stopped me from pursuing law? I don't know, but I think it maybe would have influenced my decision a little. It's something that I didn't take in. I thought, oh, I want to be a lawyer because, you know, I want to help people. I didn't take in of how much effort actually goes into it. And so that's why I truly do tell people of, don't just think about becoming a lawyer because it's good money or it may be good money. Think about, are you capable of putting in those hours? You know, if you want to, if you know, I want a family, but I may get a family later on where, you know, if I had a 9 to 5, I'd be able to have a family earlier. So there's so many different variables. Just know that law school is not a joke, and practicing law is not a joke. It's a lot of time and commitment, and a lot of lonely days by yourself working. So be ready for it.
Absolutely. Rab's kind of got another, I guess it's a good, it is a good question. Do you ever worry about did you ever worry about your practice failing when you first started getting into your own firm, or even just becoming a lawyer? Or do you feel like you kind of made it now and that you can kind of rest and kind of go, okay, I don't want to say like I know what's going on, because I know you know what's going on, but I think I figured this out, and I figured out how to do the best I can and make sure that, you know, my T's are crossed, my I's are dotted.
I can confidently say that I still don't know exactly what's going on every day. The one thing I can confidently say that I love about my job is every day I'm learning. Like literally every day is a learning experience. I do not know everything, and so that's what keeps me going. Did I have that fear of my law firm not working out and failing? 100%. You know, when we first launched, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know how to get clients. I didn't know how clients would be coming, or and so that fear is real. It's still there. You know, even though we're super busy right now and things are great, that doesn't mean that's how it's going to stay. You got to continue putting in that effort for that to continue to be the norm. And I think having my own practice, it really enables me to work harder, because like I was saying, every hour I put in directly impacts what comes out, you know? And if I want to put in 8 hours a day, I'm going to get value of 8 hours. If I want to put in 20 hours a day, I'm going to get value of 20 hours. And I think that keeps me going. Gotcha. And the more I put in, the more I get out.
Absolutely. That's great advice. And that's great. That's great that you get to test to something like that. And I think that's something we forget. You know, what you put in, you're going to get out. There's no BS around that, right? If you fail to prepare something, you have to prepare to fail, because you take it seriously, right? So.
And one thing I will comment on that, and I truly believe it, it's never a failure, always a lesson, you know, and it's, if you think of it that way, it's you know, okay, if you did something wrong and you failed at this, it's a lesson because you know that's never going to happen again.
Right.
You know, you put that behind you, right? And so it's always a learning experience. And if you think of it that way, it's going to help a lot.
Gotcha. Thank you very much for that. Samir, do you still have your hand up, or is that from before? Do you have another question? If you do, then go ahead and unmute yourself and you can ask your question.
No, sorry, that was from before.
Okay, got you. My apologies. I will just, there's a couple other good ones here, Tushaar. I know you're busy and I won't keep you for too long, so we'll start to wrap this up. Danielle has a good question here. Are all UK law schools looked upon as the same? Because I know you brought up before that when you came back here, there was that little bit of stigma involved with having the UK degree. Is there one that's particularly looked upon that's higher or one that's lower? Could you maybe attest to a little bit of that?
If you're coming back to Canada and you want to practice law in Canada or any province in Canada, I think going to any law school in the UK will probably bring you back at the same level. You know, I personally went to the University of Birmingham, and it wasn't the Oxford or the Cambridge, but it was kind of like just under there. Obviously, if you go to Oxford or Cambridge, that's like, you know, the Osgood of Canada, the Harvard of the US. So those are definitely looked upon a lot with a lot more, like they're better schools overall. But I think generally speaking, if you're coming back to Canada and you have a law degree from any UK school, you're going to be at about the same level. I don't think you're going to have a better opportunity if you went to Birmingham versus Queen Mary. You know, you're going to be on the same footing. And yeah, that's my opinion on that.
Gotcha. Thank you very much for that. Shalani has another question here. Are there any individuals in the law business, or I guess in the industry, that you have looked up upon or that have influenced your practice?
Oh yeah, being a junior lawyer, I mean, I'm going to be June 26th of this year will be my 2-year anniversary of being called to the bar. So like, I still consider myself a noob and an amateur. And like I was saying, having a large network doesn't just include reaching out to clients and stuff. That means having the mentors, you know, having the senior lawyers to reach out to when you got to bounce ideas off of. You know, I've worked for 2 firms in the past prior to starting Kalra Law. And both of my previous bosses are people I reach out to normally when I have some doubt on a topic or a matter. I have many mentors. I don't want to name any single person, but I have many mentors I reach out to. Like I said, I do not know everything. I'm far from knowing everything. So I'm daily reaching out to my mentors, bouncing ideas off of, and I don't know what I would do without them. So get mentors, get people you can not necessarily look up to, but get people who can give you the right feedback and can help guide you the right way. You need it.
That's amazing advice, and thank you very much for answering that question.
Yeah.
So like I said, we're going to start wrapping this up. So if anyone has any questions they want to ask either in the chat or they want to unmute themselves, I know Aisha is asking me, she can't raise her hand, but she wants to ask a question. So Aisha, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yeah, sorry. I keep forgetting that when you make me a co-host, it doesn't let me raise my hand. So then I'm like, what do I do? Like, how do I get your attention? But my question kind of was based on what you said there about struggling to balance like your personal life and kind of questioning, like, if you went, you know, the HR route, would things be different? Would you be working a 9 to 5 and kind of have more time for yourself? So I know you've only been called to the bar like for 2 years, which congratulations on that, by the way, for almost hitting work. But how would you say now you've kind of learned to balance? I mean, have you learned to balance it? What things kind of work for you? How do you turn the work off for a little bit and kind of give yourself some time and, you know, your family some time? Kind of what advice would you give for aspiring lawyers who are also kind of worried about that work and personal life balance?
Yeah, no, actually a very, very, very good question. I'm glad you asked this. And, you know, I don't think there's one formula to how you can get that perfect work-life balance. But I think the fact that you're thinking that way, knowing that, hey, like I need to be able to turn that switch on and off is important on its own. And unfortunately, it's easy for me to say that it's a switch because it's not, right? There's going to be days where you're overwhelmed with work this day, and you gotta do the work for the clients. And so every day is different. But I think just acknowledging the fact that work-life balance, your mental health, stresses are they're real things, right? And if you don't understand how important your mental health and your social life is, you're not going to be able to work at a high capacity for your work. So for you to continue to perform at an optimal value, at an optimal point where you're servicing your clients with good quality work, you got to be able to go to the gym. You got to be able to go see some friends in the park. That will help you. That'll help the quality of the work, right? So I think once you recognize that, that is the biggest point. I personally, there's some days like right today, I have two files tomorrow. It's 7 o'clock. I wish I could go outside and enjoy the work, but I'm going to stay here. I'm going to get it done, and I'm going to look forward to my Saturday and go play a round of golf, right? So it's like incentivizing yourself. Even if you have to work hard today, have something to look forward to, or maybe you're going to dinner tomorrow with the friends in the park, because that's all we can do during the pandemic. But yeah, definitely giving yourself incentives, that, hey, I'm going to work hard today, and then I'm going to go enjoy my Saturday. That helps so much. Taking vacations, very important, making sure you have support where you can take a couple of days off work and eat, and the work is still getting done. I'm still learning as well. Like I was saying, there's no formula. I think it's going to be a learning experience for me as I continue. But the most important part is acknowledging that, knowing that, hey, I need to balance my work with my well-being. That is the most important part.
Thank you so much for that. I think that's a really great answer. And I think it's something that a lot of like aspiring lawyers or law students worry about, like, what am I going to do in the future? Because you have, of course, everyone has other goals besides their career, like personal goals, family goals, where you see yourself by the time you're 30 type thing. And then it gets a little overwhelming when you're done law school or you pass the bar and you're practicing, but you don't know where to fit in the other aspects of the goals that your younger self had. And I think one thing that's really inspiring about hearing from you is, you started your own firm and you work really hard. Like, I mean, I'm sure that we can all tell that you're very hardworking. And I think, you can probably say more about this, but I think it seems like it's very rewarding for you as well. So it's not like you're putting in the work and you're absolutely miserable. It feels like it's worth it for you to be helping your clients and working on these files.
Very good point. And I think that circles back to, you need to be doing what you love. If you're practicing law, and if you're a family lawyer and you hate family law, how are you going to take care of yourself socially and mentally when your work sucks? You're always drowning in work, you're not enjoying it. So yeah, definitely enjoy what you do, and it won't feel like work all the time. And when I'm helping clients purchase or sell a property, when I'm able to send them an email saying, hey, congratulations, you're the new owner, it's gratifying to me. And I love seeing that smile on my clients' faces. And that's what keeps me going as well, for sure.
All right, thank you so much. I think because it is past 7 and, I think you should be allowed to go out to the park or work on your files, whatever you could be doing for the rest of the night. But I just want to wrap it up now.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No,
I was just gonna say, if anyone has any final dying questions that they have, I was just gonna cut Aisha off and say, yeah, we're gonna wrap this up and let Tushaar get back to his work that he has to do. So if anyone has any final questions, that they would like to ask him, I will say going once, going twice. All right. I just want to, on behalf of the pre-law shadowers, I just want to say thank you so much, Tushaar, for coming out and taking the time to speak with me and speak with everyone about everything. This has been absolutely, well, it's been amazing. It's so inspiring to me. I'm at a loss of words, actually. And I think it's been very, very helpful for just being able to hear your stories and how you have become such a successful lawyer to this day. So thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
No, and thank you guys all as well. It was a pleasure to be here, and any other way we can collab, I'm always open to it, and I appreciate your guys' time as well. So thank you.
All right, everyone. Thank you very much, and have a safe and